How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Feel good. It's a long 18 months, give or take, between the encephalitis and then surgery, and just ripped my arm out of the socket, so I had to get that replaced. So, and you don't recover from this, as the doctor told me. He said, "You think you're going back to work tomorrow?" As I was leaving the hospital, he said, "You won't be going back for a long time." I thought, "You don't know me. I'll be back, tomorrow." Tomorrow didn't happen, and it literally turned into months as far as sitting in a chair at home. And again, it's, as I've shared with people, I've been extremely healthy. I'm fit, work out, try to eat well, don't drink, don't smoke, whatever. And it was a good eye opener for me, as far as I've always considered myself a pretty sympathetic and caring individual, but coming out of this, much more so. I was on so many drugs. I mean, I imagined so many things as far as when I was out there. So, for those that don't know, it's basically it affects your brain. Your brain basically blows up. It's encephalitis is, a lot of people don't live through it, and I fortunately did. But at the end of the day, in order to treat it, they just zap you with all kinds of medication. And it was essentially a 3-week stay out there, and of which 2.5 weeks I was literally out of it. I had no clue as far as what was going on. And then finally, again, the medication was incrementally working, and all of a sudden now I kind of know who my kids are. I know who my wife is, and learning to drink out of a straw again, learning to walk again. It was not something I would want other people to go through, but again, I did, and it's made me tougher. And as I've told people, I said, you start feeling sorry for yourself. You soon realize when you go out to Iowa City, and the areas that I would go to was the cancer area. And you'd see all these poor people suffering, long-term, maybe life-threatening type stuff. And then we'd go to the neurology department and see some of those people in the pain and the agony they're in. So mine was a fairly short a stint, 18 months, give or take. A lot of these people, it's lifelong struggles that they have. So yeah, I'm very thankful as far as to be here, and pretty much back. Other than my voice really stinks today, I feel really, really good. So I apologize, folks. It I don't know if it's the front end of a cold or what's going on here.
Again, visiting with Dave Nelson, NelsonCorp Wealth Management, and now Tax Solutions. Talk about bringing something like that on board.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking. Again, for those that don't know, we're in the primarily tax estimating business, I guess I would say, as far as we would work with clients towards the end of the year, try to see what their situation was. We typically would refer to it as tax planning, not tax preparation. And so that was a really important part in order to do a good job, because we're in the wealth management business and we help people with estate planning and things of that nature. But the missing link was the preparation part of it. And so we formed a relationship, I don't know, probably now 15 years ago, with Deb Montgomery. And Deb was doing a fair amount of the functions that we needed done, but she was doing it from afar. She had an office, give or take, across from Wendy's. And so we kept saying, we think we want to bring this in-house. And finally we did. And so she was number one. And then we bought out 2 other CPAs, as far as Jackie Rutledge and then Jim McGraw's wife, Lynn. And so we incorporated all that into the operation. And so what we've done is we basically have taken what years ago we wanted, and that was to have all this planning. Because as we tell people, when you make a decision on your IRA, or you make a decision on Social Security, you make a decision as far as on should I put my money into a tax-free muni, whatever. All of these basically center around the tax return. And so we need to understand that when people make decisions, that's really an important area. So bringing that under one roof was really helpful. And so now we can just walk down the hall and say, take a peek at this, would you please? And so now we've got it. And again, not everybody that works on the wealth management side works with the tax solution people, and vice versa. But more and more, it's probably about 75% now that work with both sides. It makes a lot of sense.
We're going to be breaking for the weather in about 4 or 5 minutes, but let's talk a little bit about the staff, especially the ones that are here in town. I know you took Val from us.
Yes. She stepped another place first.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Yeah, she worked for
the KROS Hall of Famer.
Yes.
And now down there. But Nate Kreinbrink, he came to town for the baseball club.
Yes.
He has been very successful
Yes.
with you. You got a good group of people down there.
We've been really lucky. It started a heavy dose in the early days of family and brother-in-laws and brother, and that's kind of expanded. We just had a recent retiree, Brad Fritz, that came aboard literally 25 years ago, and what a nice addition he was. I spent a whole bunch of money. I went up to Toronto and had a gentleman that was not basketball coaching here, folks, but coaching as far as business coaching. It was 3 sessions with this guy. And the conclusion is what he basically attempts to help you do, and he did a terrific job as far as for me, is you're really only good at 2 things. You just have to figure out what those 2 things are, and then you have to hire people for the other. Well, Brad was that individual that was the first hire as far as after going to this coaching. And it was that he had some experience in managing people and to some degree an office. And so I didn't like that. I wasn't good at it. And again, that was one of the things that I wanted to offload. About the first thing out of his mouth to me was, how often do you think about retirement? Now, I'm probably age 40. And so I said, every day. And because I had, as he went on to say why, I said, well, I have things I really hate doing. He said, well, how much of your day is that? And when we analyzed it, it's probably like 5 to 10%. So he said, well, just go out and hire people to do that, because some people, that's what they want to do. That's their skill set, where it isn't yours. And that made a lot of sense to me. And so anyway, Brad was that first hire for that. So he was an advisor, just incrementally small, just starting out, but he was responsible for running the office, and it made a big, big difference. Things ran smoother. There was just a huge growth once we brought him aboard. So anyway, it was a good decision, and we made a few other decent decisions along the way. I've had some clunkers too. Trust me on that. Things we shouldn't have done.
I've been able to see the growth of
Sure.
your business as the account rep, and I can remember you starting over with Bill Haydock.
Yes.
Over
yes,
there in Fulton.
Yes.
And then you were up in the North End.
Yes.
You had that little
Yes.
office there.
Sure.
And then the next thing you know, you've got the Taj Mahal down here at the bottom of the hill. That had to have been a tough decision.
It was one of the toughest. I had a good friend who's now deceased, and he gave me a hard kick in the pants, because as you know, Val's brought up, speaking of Val, she says, we all need a kick in the rear sometimes. Okay. So this was kind of her message to me, that don't be afraid to do this as far as to any of us here. And I had nobody as far as for that. And so this friend of mine, we were chatting one day, and he said, you're going to be in this industry for the next 10, 20 years. I said, yes. He said, then do it. I mean, I don't know what you're waiting for. So anyway, it was just, it was that extra push that I needed. Same thing down the Quad Cities. He also pushed me as far as to get the prior location where we were for give or take 15 years. And so anyway, yeah, it's been quite an experience.
Yeah. Visiting with Dave Nelson to check the weather coming your way in 1 minute.
It's the end of the year, and this is the time for you to save big at Clover Hills Appliance and Mattress Center in Clinton. Get year-end prices on GE appliances, best home furnishings, recliners, lift chairs, Tempur-Pedic and therapeutic mattresses, and the new line of Nectar beds, the bed that comes in a box. Year-end prices mean big savings for you. Stop in and save before the end of the year at Clover Hills Appliance and Mattress Center in Clinton and Sterling. With better prices and better service than the big box stores, you can't go wrong.
During this challenging time, Marion Bernsdorf, owner of Errands for Elders and You, wants folks to know if an elderly family member needs groceries or essential items or any errands done, to call Marion at 563-259-8518. Safety is her priority. Errands for Elders and You.
Call me, Marion. I can do it.
It's time now for the Storm Track 8 weather forecast, brought to you by Prairie Lumber.
Having adequate kitchen storage is necessary. You also want your cabinets to be functional and attractive. That's what Marilat Kitchen and Bath Cabinets from Prairie Lumber in Fulton offers you. Choose from the Marilat Classic, Basics, or Masterpiece collections to fit your design and lifestyle, with the accessories and hardware to give you the customizable options you want. So if you're building or remodeling, visit the showroom today and discover the wide variety of Marilat cabinetry available at Prairie Lumber, 912 2nd Street in Fulton.
tracking some snow showers this morning, a quick dusting of accumulation with windy conditions. We'll see temperatures in the upper 30s this afternoon. Partly cloudy tonight. We drop to the upper teens, and snow still on track for much of Saturday, especially north of the Quad Cities, 1 to 3 inches. We're with your Storm Track 8 forecast. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Currently, we have snow skies and the temperature 25 degrees. Winds are out of the south at 15 miles per hour. This weather report brought to you by Prairie Lumber.
Contact Mike Kramer of Kramer Insurance in downtown Clinton, your Pekin Insurance agent. Let him explain the budgets and benefits of an auto home discount from Pekin. You will save on your homeowner's premiums and on your auto premiums when both your home and auto are insured with Pekin Insurance through Kramer Insurance. Let one insurance policy give you a better rate on the other. Contact Mike Kramer at 242-0200 about this money-saving discount. Kramer Insurance, 239 Fifth Avenue South, Clinton, your Pekin Insurance agent. Wednesday, we're visiting with Dave Nelson of NelsonCorp Wealth Management. Now you can see this, Dave. You can go back to the office and you can watch krosradio.com or go to KROS Radio on YouTube.
Giddy up. I like it.
So there you go.
Technology is great.
Oh,
Yes.
What about technology? How have you adapted to technology?
Literally, I walked out of a meeting this morning as far as to come up here where we're chatting about that as far as implementing various things. And again, the good news is that I'm not really seriously involved at all. I just get the outcome as far as what's taking place. We've got some people that get technology, and it's tremendous as far as for what we do as far as being able to track stuff so much better. I was stopped over to see my dad had a short stint as far as in the nursing home, and he's at home now, closing in on 90. Mom's 86 years old. Anyway, we're talking about some things, and she brought up something about a call from the doctor's office as a reminder. And I said, well, I get reminders as far as from Iowa City for checkups. But I said, they don't call. It's just the computer basically making the call. And she was kind of stunned by that. And I said, it's all about efficiencies. The big operations are trying to make things more efficient. She commented that how she despises that type of stuff, which again, most people do. I kind of, I'd rather talk to a human being myself, but I brought up the example of we don't even have files anymore. In the old days, you'd go to the file cabinet, pull the file out. We don't have such a thing. It's all electronic, and we've got it backed up in about 100 different places, what have you. But it's shocking as far as how things have changed. And just say 5 years ago, that you couldn't do in our industry, whether you were prepared for it, whether you're capable as far as to pull it off. It just wasn't an option as far as to have. But today it is. It's really, really crucial as far as our industry. The other thing that it's done, and I keep reiterating this to people, is it's really brought down, in my opinion, it's basically put some level of inflation that is probably the highest we could see because of this technology. The example, and again, I'm going back probably 10 years ago now, but we had a gentleman come in, and he was from the Federal Reserve, and he was talking about the impact that technology is having. And he used the auto industry as the example. And he brought up just buying tires and rattle off the amount of money that they spent on tires prior to technology and how much they spend today. And essentially what it came down to is it was cutting out the middleman. Now, some people don't like the sound of that, but the bottom line is it drove down prices dramatically. Same way with Walmart. You either love Walmart or you despise Walmart. There's no middle ground. But there's been studies done that the average human being receives about $2,000 in benefit from that, even if you don't shop there, because they've been able to force the competitors as far as to drop their prices as well. So I think technology is clearly it's here to stay, and we're going to continue to see as far as massive improvements, I'm sure, as far as that'll make lives better as far as across the board.
So how do you protect yourself from, you hear about, people breaking in and getting things like that. That's got to be very important to you.
Oh yeah. Extremely important. And you hear of I think Target was one of the big players probably about 2 years ago that they were, whatever term people want to use, they were broken into as far as through technology broken into. And our industry, you have so much private information, just like a lot of other places. But at the end of the day, you can't do enough. We clear through a broker dealer, which is a fancy way of saying kind of a liaison to Wall Street. And they're out in the Iowa City area. and their job, their line one as far as defending things. Nobody's penetrated that yet, knock on wood. And then we also, as far as locally, have an additional level, which the more levels you put in play, the slower the process is as far as the technology to be able to clear through those processes. But it's important, and people want to know that their data is protected. And the bottom line, we've been very, very efficient and good as far as doing that to date. Not everybody in the industry has been able to make that claim, and so we're hoping to keep that forever. But again, it's reality. There's a lot of bad people out there trying to access your information, and we're going to do everything we can as far as to try to prevent that.
Visiting with Dave Nelson. Now, Dave, you were born and raised here in Clinton. You've got a business here in town. Why Clinton? What makes you stay here? Because, I mean, you were telling me you're going to be visiting with somebody in Honolulu when you get done here today.
Yes, 11 o'clock. We've got a phone call with somebody as far as in Honolulu. I get it all the time for people. So we've got an office. Our hub is here and will continue to be here as far as in Clinton. This is my town. This is my hometown. This will be always my hometown. So that was an easy decision for me. We've added other locations to Butte. There's a gentleman up there that we got a phone call that he wanted to sell his practice, and would you be interested? So we basically looked at it, and we did. It primarily consists of professional athletes, primarily football players. And then we have a location down in the Quad Cities. We have multiple people as far as down there. So those are the three that we work out of day to day. Then we have what are called branch offices, and they range from Honolulu to Kansas to Des Moines to north of Chicago. And those offices, we have people day to day that run it, but we're what's called the back office for them, which is a fancy way of saying we do all their compliance work and we do the money management as far as for those places. So they're interfacing with clients day to day. We're doing all the ugly stuff behind the scenes and making it easier for them to run their operations. All of them have come about from inquiries at various places that I've spoken, and people come up to me afterwards and say, hey, what you brought up there, that's kind of intrigues me. And would you be interested in putting together some type of formal relationship? And we have with a few. Most of them we said no to, but again, it can be a good fit. We spend an enormous amount of money in research. And so what it basically is enabling us to do is to leverage that and to be able to sell it to people outside the area, subsequently keeping all the people that are doing that money management process and the compliance process in-house here in Clinton. And to date, again, we've got in the neighborhood of 20, 25 people as far as between the three offices, of which most of them are in Clinton here. So good news for our area.
That is amazing. Now, you talked about where you've gone and you have spoken and people come up to you.
Sure.
I could see you as a motivational speaker. Have you ever thought about that, Dave?
It's crossed my mind a few times. I had a client tell me, he says, man, I can see you on Sunday mornings on TV. I said, what? He said, oh, you would be really good as far as that. I said, no, not something I want to do. But yeah, the speaking that I do typically is industry specific. And we've been lucky through the years. I mean, I've worked hard. Don't get me wrong. And I've made a boatload of mistakes. So that's the other part that comes with this. But I'm real passionate about what I do. People that have watched me on the basketball court are kind of either disgusted or intrigued. I don't know which. I know how to push myself, and I know how to push other people. I can read other people. And so yeah, I've thought about something like that because I do enjoy it. I try to do it as far as going to high schools and speaking as far as bringing up this money topic, but trying to make it, something that they would be intrigued by versus a boring, monotone presentation. When we do the gathering with the graduates at St. Ambrose each year, I've done this now, I think 6 years. They basically give me an open mic for a couple hours, and I just go at it. We talk about all kinds of stuff. But the goal being to try to teach, which is what I've done for 26 years as far as in basketball, was teaching people about life. And as I would tell them time and time again, as far as in practice, I'd ask for a show of hands of how many dream about going into the WNBA. And guess what? In 26 years, I never had one. So it's not a question now of, preparing those people to be the best basketball player that they could be. It's preparing them for life. And so we spent a lot of time talking about life. And the latter years, we incorporated an enormous amount. Every practice, the first 15 minutes, we spoke about money and taxes and the importance of this, Social Security. So I've had multiple individuals. The most recent one was her mother's a chiropractor in the area. She's going to UNI, and she's going to be a teacher. She's going to a class, and she had to put together a presentation. Her presentation was on money. And so she visited with the teacher and then the dean of that area, and bottom line discussed, as far as why she's going down this direction and where did you get this information from? And she said they couldn't believe it that I learned this from my basketball coach. So I take a lot of pride in that. I want to shortcut things for people as much as I can. And that's why being away from basketball, I'm going out of my mind. I mean, I just, oh God, I consider myself a pretty good game coach, but I'm a really good practice coach. I mean, really good. And I know that sounds arrogant, but it's true. Day one, I don't know if I was, but I really put in the time and the effort and the energy as far as into understanding kids, but also understanding the game. And so anyway, yeah, I miss it immensely. And yes, I thought about, but I got a fairly busy schedule. I got 12 grandkids now, so I want to hang with them a fair amount as well.
Okay, I wanted to close with your family. 12 grandchildren, yes. And they're fairly young.
They are, yes. So the oldest is in 7th grade.
Okay.
The next is 5th. And then there's a cluster of them down in the 1-2 range. So yeah, it's pretty neat. And, again, people say, well, I don't know why you're coaching basketball and whatever when you have all these kids. This is the past prior years. And I said, there are advantages as far as to the grandkids, because again, we can access a gym at times. I can have them in there. They can see me in action and understand as far as that this is something that Papa is passionate about and cares about. And it's not about winning basketball games. It's about preparing these people for tomorrow's. And so now I get the benefit and the luxury to go to games and sit next to them and point stuff out. And then it's reading the kid to make sure that they want that, because some kids don't want that. Like my oldest grandson, he could care less about sports, and grandpa's okay with that. I don't care. But my next one in line, she's really passionate about the game. And so again, I want to give her as much insight, what I've learned through the years, to try to make her path more successful and happier as far as, the time that she's playing.
Did you coach just one of your girls or
two?
Yes, that's what I thought. You had two of them that you coached. What was it like coaching them?
It's again, people said, did you coach them harder than your own, or than the other players, or not? And the answer is yes. My expectations were extremely high. I'd probably like a do-over as far as on that to maybe soften things up a little bit, but you always, at least this is the way I approach it. I think other coaches, it's almost the exact opposite of that. But I felt that they had to not only earn the job, they had to be that much better. I mean, incrementally even higher yet to prove it, so that it's not the coach playing his own kid. So once they were done, I figured I was done, and that didn't happen. Yeah. And 26 years, 18 years at the high school level, it was more good than bad. I'll put it that way. I think the real key for me is when I go to a game now and I sit as far as pretty much by myself because I want to watch the game. And then all my past basketball players that are at that game, they all get up and walk over and sit by me. And I said, I think that's a really good sign, and they want to talk. And so it's we've got a really interesting relationship, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I always enjoyed watching you on the sideline. I could never understand when there was a change of possession, you would run people in and out. However.
Yes.
Sure enough, change of possession.
Yes.
There's 2 or 3 jumping off the bench, 2 or 3 going to the bench.
Yes.
Ball out of bounds, 2 or 3 coming into the game, 2 or 3 going out of the game again.
Getting people involved, number one.
Okay.
Making sure of that. And number 2, understanding who's a defensive player and who's an offensive player. So a lot of extra work, but it paid off.
Again, thank you so much. This is KROS. It's time now for news.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Officials in Memphis are bracing ahead of tonight's scheduled release of body cam video, allegedly showing police beating